Hello zoo fans, welcome to the Trondheim National Park for a build for one of my favourite animals in the world, the beautiful snow leopards. Snow leopards. The softest, cutest, cuddliest, most inviting death imaginable, and worthy of a real feature home. In a lovely surprise gesture, we had a brother-sister pair of young leopards donated by a rescue facility in Nepal. Seems that in addition to rescuing and rehabilitating wild snow leopards to release back into the wild, they also home and maintain some that are unable to be released for whatever reason. And every now and then, they end up with cubs that they either release if they can, or give to reputable zoos to make sure animals aren't being taken from the wild. Animals that are captive bred, particularly predators, can have trouble acclimatizing to their new environment when released into the wild, often associating humans with, feeding and shelter. And as I say, this is worse for predators, as humans, when encountered, are likely to attack or kill a vicious death animal. And it kind of makes sense. If you see a leopard walking down the street, you're not going to go out and pet it as much as you might want to. Don't get me wrong, reintroduction is possible. It's one of our objectives here. But it needs to be done correctly and with sufficient preparation and resources. So in some ways, the safest and most ethical option is to give them a good home, ideally away from people. But if they can be used to educate, then they're benefiting the species, aren't they? Seems that our reputation, as well as the niche that we have here in the mountains, made us a perfect choice for these two siblings. Now, we do have two problems here that will both play into the same solution. 1. These leopards are young, but approaching an age where they'll need to be separated for safety. And 2, we're not into that inbreeding stuff here, so we need to either make room for both separately or come up with some other plan, and I think we have something pretty perfect to get around it. I had considered a split habitat similar to the lynx, however the scale I had planned was too inefficient. If the leopards were critically endangered, that would be another thing, but we don't need to go building a whole cub farm just for these kittens. What we have arranged is a swap with another facility back in Scotland. Not the reserve, but an unaffiliated big cat zoo. They have a male who's a little bit older that they can send over in a simple like-for-like trade. And we can build the foundations of a working relationship for the future as well. Easy as that. Anyway, let's get into what's going on here. Today's habitat draws quite a bit from the snow leopard enclosure in the Wellington Zoo in New Zealand. Although it is only inspired rather than an exact recreation. For one thing, I think my build might be a little bit bigger, but it's not a competition. The main feature of the Wellington Zoo that I love is the primary viewing wall, or window, that leans outward over the guests. I think this is a perfect starting point for the enclosure I want to build. Now, where my habitat differs a little bit, that is it's much taller and shallower, which means it appears to tower over you as you stand at the bottom. This, coupled with the outward leaning viewing window, creates an almost oppressive, imposing feeling as you approach. You really get a sense of significance, like this is something to take note of. Then, when you combine that with some of the more friendly and inviting elements you'll see towards the end, it becomes more of a comforting, strong, safe presence. It's the difference between Barad-dûr and Gondor for those Middle-earth fans. Both have a strong presence, but one is inviting and the other is very much not. Now, if you watched the King Penguin video last week, and thank you if you did, I know there was a bit of an audio issue, the voiceover seems to be struggling a little bit, I'm going to try and work on that for this video. But you'll know I have a bit of a problem when it comes to decorations of the stone variety. And I have spared you what would have been a full hour of me adding rocks to this mountainside. And that's not an hour of real time, that is at 6 times speed. 6 hours worth of rock placing. That's stupid. Stupid amount of rocks. It is worth it though, I think. Maybe it'll be worth it when it's finished. Won't it? I mean, no. The rocks are the real reason that people come here. I know this. You can't trick me. There are literally hundreds of rocks on this mountainside, many of which are only fractionally visible. Some are probably completely hidden, but all are absolutely vital. If you're watching this trying to look for ideas for your own builds and find the sound of that a little bit daunting, don't worry. This is so extra and unnecessary that it's not needed at all for an effective look. I can't stop. Something about showing it to other people here on YouTube makes me a little bit obsessive. Which I'm fine with. This is the best building I've done in the game since it was released. Far from finding negatives about my beloved rocks, the addition of so many does cut the traversable area in the enclosure quite a bit. You'll probably have seen the cave being built at the top of the incline here. Originally the cave entrance was going to be the very top of the habitat, but the available area has effectively been shredded to a few small strips separated by my beautiful, amazing, perfect rocks. I ended up having to raise the top of the habitat a bit, made a nice little plateau, like a snow leopard equivalent of Pride Rock. A stone throne for a king of the mountain to survey his kingdom, and look hungrily at the many tuxedo-wearing drumsticks at the base of the habitat. Probably slightly unfair to tease the big fluffy cold cats by putting them directly opposite the penguin buffet. But, saying that, we do have a bit of a population boom going on at the moment, so maybe we're looking at a solution right here? I'm joking, obviously. But, since we're on the topic, do you think penguins taste more like chicken? Or fish? You would think chicken because it's a bird, but they spend a lot of their time in the water. Obviously, something very important to consider when building for cats of any size, let alone big mountaineers like these, is their ability to climb and leap. Now, Planet Zoo has very kindly provided an easy method of prevention for their habitat barriers in the climb-proof toppers, which is a great addition, really. Genuinely very useful. But when you're someone who likes to make your own barriers, partly because they look a lot better, but mostly because they don't deteriorate and as a result lower the amount of work that engineers need to do, well, you kind of have to combat this in creative ways. Thankfully, the real-world habitat that this is based off of in the Wellington Zoo has already provided a solution for the front viewing window. There's a very tall wall, some might say unnecessarily tall for the leopards. But that's because the bottom half, the half that the leopards can reach with a good double jump, is thick glass, which, even with the slight angle, is not climbable. And the top half is a standard wire mesh. The extra height, apart from adding to the presence of the enclosure, is needed to make sure that the climbing protection at the sides is high enough at all points on the mountain that the leopards don't want to risk it. It's also integral to the structural stability of the whole enclosure, which, when you really think about it, is a huge and unnecessary risk for the sake of a design feature. The front wall leans outward slightly and is supported by steel supports on the outside which double up as guest cover, which is quite nice. Then the front and back walls are connected by 6 high tension metal cables, which are counterbalanced by cables along the front and heavy mounting supports at the back. Seems like a pointless and unnecessary setup? I have no idea, I'm not an architect. But I needed some way to mount my climb prevention panels along each side that wasn't just bracketed to the walls. I figured these cables would act like washing lines of sorts, with glass or perspex maybe, panels suspended between them, so that if a brave leopard ever did decide to scale the walls, they'd be met with a clear ceiling, after which the confused and frustrated cat would give up and settle in and be happy with the huge playground and easy meals that they have. You ungrateful little git. I know, this is not their home, and in the wild they'd have miles of mountains to explore. But they'd also be in a lot of danger from humans, natural disasters like avalanches and rock slides, and starvation from competition or lack of prey. They also never need to go searching for a partner, and if that's not worth putting up with a smaller territory, I don't know what is. Anyway, I don't remember what I was talking about now. Another feature that was adopted from the Wellington Zoo is the mountainous decoration along the back wall. Now this may seem slightly redundant, as there's already an actual mountain back there, but I felt that the bars alone looked unfinished, and there was really no sense in having a glass viewing window back there either. On the whole, I'm very happy with how this habitat came together. It's very easy when you're building a zoo in a specific location or with a specific theme to get into a pattern of repetition. You know, a lot of the same setup will inevitably be used. Barns, fences, foliage, rocks. So throwing in something different, like the penguin habitat, although a lot of that is underground, but also this habitat here, helps refresh your brain a bit, both as the builder and hopefully as a guest. I've tried to achieve this with scenery elements like mountains and valleys as well, but I think having a whole habitat gives a bit more emphasis to that idea. Well, there's a bit more to go yet, but I will leave you now to enjoy the rest of this build without my waffling. Thank you all for watching. As much as I enjoy playing and the challenge of editing, it really means a lot to me that there are people who enjoy watching it. And I'm toying with some things to help improve that experience. It's just like with anything, it can take a bit of time to learn it all. Anyway, thanks again. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode.